We will go on the record in the matter 23 CF 156, State of Wisconsin versus Daryl Hansen. Appearances are we have all parties appearing in person. Daryl Hansen appears with his counsel, Travis Kowitz. We have the state appearing through District Attorney Kevin Schmidt. We're set here today in this matter for the sentencing portion of this case. This is a very serious matter. Mr. Hansen has pled guilty to 6 counts of first-degree recklessly endangering safety, Class F felonies, 6 counts. The court did order a pre-sentence investigation report. The court has received and reviewed that report. The court has also received a sentencing memorandum filed by defense. The court has reviewed that report as well. Before we begin, Mr. Schmidt, victims' rights compliance.
We are victim rights compliant.
Did you receive a copy of both of those documents, but in particular, the pre-sentence investigation report?
I did. I've reviewed all of those. I have no corrections to the PSI.
Mr. Kowitz, did you receive a copy of the pre-sentence investigation report?
I did, Your Honor.
And did you notice any corrections or material modifications that need to be stated on the record?
No, Your Honor.
Did you go over that report thoroughly with Mr. Hansen?
Your Honor, I've gone over the report with both Mr. Hansen and his wife. We didn't go through it line by line, but we went over the main portions. It's a pretty voluminous report.
It is a voluminous report, but you're indicating that for the sections that are the material and important sections, you went over those at least thoroughly?
I did, Your Honor.
And he did not find any anything that needed to be corrected on the record?
There are no factual errors or omissions in the report.
All right, thank you. Mr. Schmidt, before we begin, so I have an idea, we have Ms. Bauer present here, victim witness coordinator. Ms. Bauer, do you have an idea of how many people will be making statements today?
3 for sure, possibly 5.
3 or 5 statements. Okay, Mr. Schmidt, how are you wishing to proceed? I see that you have a video.
My plan is I would request the court to allow victims and to speak first. There's been requests by at least one victim the ability to possibly give a statement and leave if they need to. Then if there's any character reference witnesses, we can do the defense. I plan on using the video in the course of my argument.
Okay, thank you. And just so everybody is aware, please make sure that your cell phones are on mute so that this is not interrupted. Obviously, I see law enforcement are present here, so if there are issues and you get called or something like that, that is something that can't be avoided, and you are forgiven for that. Okay, so Ms. Bauer, who wishes to make a statement first? You may come over here and have a seat at the black stand. You may state your full name if you wish to do so, or you can simply state your initials.
Okay. Can I stand or you gotta sit, or doesn't it?
You can, whatever you prefer.
Okay, well.
And if you're going to be reading, and I see that you have a written statement there, if you're going to be reading, please make sure that you read it slow and you enunciate your words, just so that my court reporter can make sure that she gets everything down.
Okay. Well, I know, Your Honor, you know me, I know most people in this courtroom do, but my name is Mark Peterson and I'm a retired Burnett County Sheriff's Deputy. Years ago, when I attended the Law Enforcement Academy, and the instructors talked about the use of force, and maybe someday you might have to use it. The firearm to stop a threat. You never think it will happen until it does. Mine was on Saturday, July 2nd, 2022. I shot the defendant 3 times after he recklessly pointed a firearm at me in Danbury, Wisconsin. Folks, some folks say that a sheriff's deputy can't be a victim. Part of your job, it's what you get paid to do. I say to those folks, have you ever been in a fight? How about a fight for your life? Have you ever ordered, yelled, begged and pleaded for another human being to comply and drop a loaded firearm, while that same human being is not complying, swearing at you, giving you the finger, waving the firearm around recklessly, and yelling at you to shoot him? Before finally pointing the firearm at you, you don't know how shooting another human being will affect you until it does. I unfortunately found it out, and it affected me physically and mentally. I'm not going to go into details about the medical and mental health issues directly related from the shooting. Most people in this room already know, as probably does Your Honor. And I'm not going to give the defendant the satisfaction of hearing it. But I will say I'm no longer able to be in law enforcement. And in my opinion, Burnett County lost a damn good deputy. I was asked about hypotheticals by a few folks that will probably never know what it's like to run towards danger instead of running away from it. Questions like, what if the defendant was suffering from mental health issues, psychosis, was on medication? Did you know he was a combat vet? Well, he was intoxicated. He wasn't in his right mind. He didn't know any better. And no one got hurt. He's an active member of a church. Or you shot him 3 times. He's an elderly male. He has medical issues now the rest of his life. Hasn't he suffered enough? Well, I got my own hypotheticals. So I ask Your Honor, what if when the defendant was in the fishbowl bar, he pulled his firearm, was waving it around, and he shot one of your friends, one of your family members, or one of your loved ones? How about when he exited the bar and he's walking around the parking lot, waving the gun around recklessly, and he would have shot one of your family, one of your friends, one of your loved ones? How about when he was walking through the field and down the road on July 4th weekend, failure to listen to law enforcement, waving a gun around at people outside their cabins enjoying their July 4th festivities, and he would have shot one of your family, friends, or loved ones? And what if he would have shot me? I hope someday God will forgive Mr. Hansen, because I never will.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. And I do just want to make one comment. He did walk out, but he did make a suggestion that I look at whether or not it would be one of my family members or loved ones. I cannot do so. This is not an emotional process. This is a rational process, and the court cannot put emotion into a sentencing. May you state your name, please, for the record?
Philip S. Unger, U-N-G-E-R.
You may have a seat or you can stand, whatever you prefer.
I'll stand.
You may begin.
So what do you want to know?
Whatever you want to tell me about that day and who you are in relation to this incident.
Oh, I'm the neighbor. My land joins his. I was just watching TV that day, and we have a beagle, and the beagle started barking. He's on the bed. You can see out the windows straight towards 77 and 7th Place Road. And so he started barking. So I go out there and looking, and I'm like, oh, I see a police car up there, top of the hill. It's a private road, and which is not uncommon because they do pull over people up there. You know what I mean? Because they turn on to 77 where the first road. And so I didn't think too much, but then I didn't see any other car, you know? So I went out on the porch after that, and first thing I see is police officer with a gun pointed at someone who I didn't know was, you know, saying like, sir, would you please put down the gun, in a calm voice. And again, he goes off like, you know, obscenities and I'm gonna do this to you and all this crap. And I mean, not like I said, it was like right at the top of the hill. He's probably 30 feet away from each other, you know what I mean? And they were coming down, and I'm not sure about how time you guys got video of it and stuff, but it was, I watched pretty much the whole thing, and then my girlfriend was sleeping in the bedroom, so I went and knocked on the window. I said, like, I don't know what's gonna happen here. You better be up in case you gotta run, you know? And so I kept watching it and came down the road, and he kept backing up. He never stopped really backing up. He was slightly turned, I thought, to the left, so I thought so that he could raise the gun, you know what I mean, and be in a right angle. And the threats and shit went on, and the police officer was just calm throughout the whole thing, and never raised his voice, just said, sir, please put down the gun. This went on and on and on, and you don't know what's gonna happen. So eventually he's just past my lot line, and there's a road back there that used to have a place to haul wood, and with our neighbor before him. And he had a bobcat, so the road was kind of, it's not a real road, but it's kind of a road. And so Mr. Hansen, of course, I didn't know who this was at the time. I figured it was somebody from the bar, you know what I mean? And so he gets back into there, and I'm watching this, and the girlfriend is on deck level higher and stuff like that. And I didn't actually see him being shot, you know what I mean? But I heard the conversation through the whole time. I was probably 150 feet away from most of it, you know what I mean? And so I could hear everything. And but there was enough foliage in the way so that I didn't see the actual, you know, shooting. But my girlfriend seen it, because she was higher on the dock, up higher. So I didn't see any of the police officers do anything wrong. You know, I'm surprised they didn't shoot him out in 7th Place, you know. With the threats and stuff going on, threatening to kill everybody, you know, stuff like that. I mean, come on. He doesn't have a right to do that.
Thank you. Please state your name and your connection to this incident.
My name is Carrie Burton, and I am the neighbor and girlfriend of Philip Unger. I woke up from my nap with the dog barking and him yelling at me to get out of the bed right now. There was a man outside waving a gun around, and the cops were following him down the road. Our windows were open. I could hear the screaming. I could hear the threats. I could hear the fuck yous, pardon my French. I could hear the just shoot me. You're not going to take me in. I could hear all of it. By the time he had entered the woods between our house and his, he had moved to where when I looked out our back door, I was staring straight at him. And the entire time, what I witnessed was his arms with his gun in his hand, waving around, flaring around. I had no idea whether it was going to go off and go through my bedroom window or any other window to my house. As I was looking out the back door and he was still doing the same thing, I had no idea whether or not that gun was going to go off. And then all of a sudden, I got the most bone-chilling visual I've ever seen in my life. Knowing that my boyfriend was standing out in the side yard. Knowing I could see 3 officers standing in the woods trying to get him to stop. And I watched the defendant raise his arm as he was turning, and my heart stopped. I hit the floor because I knew within a split second it was happening. And in that time frame, I heard 3 shots fired, and I stayed on the floor until my boyfriend came in and said they just shot him, and I could breathe again. The only thought I had was that he had shot either my boyfriend or one of the officers, because those bullets could have gone anywhere at the rate he was turning and raising his firearm. That's something I'll never forget. And it takes a lot of time to be able to sleep again at night after that. And to this day, if we hear a gun fire off in our neighborhood, we make sure we look to see if we can figure out where it is. And all of that was brought on because somebody got irate with a loaded firearm and started waving it around recklessly.
Thank you. Please state your name and your connection to this incident.
My name is Christopher Fisher, and I'm the neighbor just across from Phil, moving up the road towards Daryl and Jill Hanson's place. I was out splitting firewood with the log splitter when my wife had walked out across the yard and got my attention, and at that time my log splitter started to putter out. It was running out of gas, so I shut it off, and she had walked back towards the front of the house. I took off my earmuffs and I could hear yelling, a loud exchange going on. I thought it was somebody having a fight over across the road somewhere, maybe even at the bar. But I moved up towards the front of the house, and Sandy, my wife, was still out there. And we were hearing this going on, and I could hear, put that gun down, that damn gun down, and other muffled voices. And I thought, oh God, what the heck's going on? And so Sandy went to look down the road. I said, no, you get in the house. So we both went in the house, and I was expecting who knows what to come, if it was gonna come. And you could hear him getting closer, a lot of back and forth. Officer telling him to drop the gun, and he was refusing. At one point, I thought he said he would blow him away. So it was pretty upsetting, to say the least. So we went in the house, closed the door. I got my handgun just in case. Who knew what was going to happen? And we just waited. And they came and Daryl was the head of the officer and I didn't see him ever wave a gun around at all. And in fact, he just had it hanging by his side and he was not walking well. And I had only spoken to Daryl a couple of times before that, since they had moved in and only in his pickup truck. Up close, hadn't seen him without a hat or anything like that, and hadn't seen him out walking, but I knew that he had physical abilities, you know, with walking and all. And I wasn't sure it was him. As they came walking by, I told Sandy, I said, God, you know, it almost looks like our neighbor. I can't tell it, but it almost looks like our neighbor. And so we just continued to watch. And then as he came along, you know, and the trees were blocking, then the officer came and of course he had his gun pointed at him and continually told him to drop the weapon. And at one point, Daryl turned sort of sideways like this, and said something to him that wasn't particularly kind. And then turning kept going. And so we moved over to another window and watched. And we had the window open so we could hear. And I know that property well that they live on. It used to be Sandy's sister, her husband's. So they went to the trail and Daryl had turned in the trail. And at that point, I couldn't see him directly because of the tree cover. But I saw glimpses of him going and I know where that trail goes. And Sandy questioned me. She said, are they going to shoot them? And I said, if he points a gun at him, they'll shoot him. And a couple pickups came racing in. They got out, got their weapons and went running into the woods and bang, bang, bang. The fastest 3 shots I ever heard. And I thought they just shot him. So it was pretty upsetting to say the least. And I felt terrible for him. I felt terrible for the officer. And then later found out, you know, he had been at the bar and whatever started it had started it and the gun came out, which is obviously not a good thing. So a lot of people obviously got scared that day over there and all the way up to the end of it. And all I can say is a lot of things happened that shouldn't have. I don't know what caused them to. I hope it never happens again. And as wrong as Daryl was, I still don't want to see him suffer anymore either. I believe everybody's got a good heart. And so I'm not a judge and can't do your job, but I'm just saying he and his wife have been through an awful lot since that day of him making those mistakes. And I'm just sorry that we all had to witness it. That's it.
Thank you.
That's it, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Schmidt, I'm going to now turn to you for your sentencing argument and your video.
I'm sure, Judge. Before I get into the meat of my argument, there's something that I need to add as sort of an addendum to the PSI, and that's the video. The video I'm going to be playing, I'll describe in a second. The reason why I'm playing a video is because I was surprised as I read the PSI and the statements made by Mr. Hansen in the PSI and the statements of family members and character references that a lot of people wanted to speak about the immediate incident, the circumstances leading up to Mr. Hansen being shot. That was a flashpoint for a lot of people that they wanted to talk about. A lot of people made statements about what they think happened or what they think should have happened. We saw statements like the officer was belligerent. He should have just talked to Daryl Hansen. He didn't deserve to be shot. I don't understand why the officer shot him. The court's heard some verbal statements today as well that again talk about the lead up to Daryl Hansen being shot. To that end, I need to play some body cam for the judge. This will be the 6 minutes and 20 seconds of body cam footage. It is Deputy Mark Peterson's body cam footage. To get background, Deputy Peterson received a call that someone, an intoxicated patron, was ejected from the fishbowl. He had pointed a firearm at people. That is the information he had when he was dispatched to this. In the body cam, you will see Deputy Peterson's arrival. You'll see the entirety of his contact with Mr. Hansen up until he was shot. You will hear Deputy Peterson begging Mr. Hansen to put the gun down. You will hear him entreating Mr. Hansen to put the gun down numerous times and say that if he does, they can just talk. You'll hear Mr. Hansen's response. Contrary to any assertion to the otherwise, there is evidence in this video that alcohol did play a role in terms of how Mr. Hansen spoke, how he walked, his body language. You'll see the police try to use non-lethal after commands failed and see it malfunction right as Mr. Hansen swings around at close range with no control over direction of the firearm. And you'll see Mr. Hansen be shot. I'm going to stop the video before it gets to them administering first aid because that's gory and it doesn't really matter for the sake of the argument. First 30 seconds is before the audio kicks in.
Drop it now! 519, but what a gunpoint! Drop the gun! Drop the fucking gun now! Drop it! Drop it now! Drop the gun! Drop that fucking gun now! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Drop it, sir! Please drop that gun! Drop that gun, sir! Drop the gun now! Drop it! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Put the gun down! Put that gun down now! Put it down now! Put that fucking gun down! Put it down! Put the gun down! Put it down! Put that gun down now! Put it down! Put it down! 519, but I got with the gun. He's not dropping it. Put it down now!
10-4.
Following us up, we were walking towards 77. Put it down! Drop it now!
Copy. Substitute walking towards 77, 1506.
519, but now we're going up a dirt road. Wonders off of 77. Male, gray t-shirt, ball cap, blue jeans. Pistol in his right hand. Drop it now!
519.
Put the gun down!
Copy.
Put it down!
I will not.
Put it down! Put the gun down, we'll talk. Put it down! Put the fucking gun down! Put it down! Drop that gun! Drop that gun now! Drop that gun now! Drop it! Drop it now! Do not raise that gun up, sir! Put it down now! Put it down now! Put it down! Put that gun down now! Put that gun down now! Put it down! Put it down! Put it down! Where are you going? No, you're not. Drop that gun. Drop that gun now. Drop it. I don't want to shoot you. Put that gun down. Put that fucking gun down now. Don't point that at me. Don't raise that up again. I'll shoot you. Put that fucking gun down. Put it down. Put it down. Put it down now. Put it down. Put it down. Do not raise that gun. Do not raise that. Do not point that gun at me, sir. Put that fucking gun down now. Put it down now. Put it down. Drop that gun now. Drop the gun. Put it down. Sir, put the gun down. Sir, put the gun down. Shit, I'm gonna go back and get your vehicle. Put the gun down. Put it down.
I'm gonna give you the biggest one you've ever heard.
Put that gun down now. Put that fucking gun down.
I put nothing down.
Drop the gun. Drop the gun so I can talk to you. Drop the gun so I can talk to you. Drop the gun so I can talk to you, sir. Drop the gun. 519, Burnett, subject still has a gun in his hand. Will not drop it, has not pointed it at us yet. Keep pointing in the air. Wants me to shoot him. Sorry to put the gun down.
We copy. Subject still has a gun in his hand. Not pointed at you. Will not
Keep bringing it. Keep bringing the car. Keep bringing the car. Sir, stop. Do not point that gun. Do not point the gun at anybody. Put it down. Put the gun down now. Put it down. Put it down, sir. Do not point that gun at me. Do not point that gun at me.
Fuck you.
Put the gun down now. Put the gun down.
The gun is down.
Put the down on the ground.
What do you
Down the ground.
You want my neighbors up?
Put it on the ground now.
Fuck you.
Put it down now. Put that down now.
If you want,
Put that down now.
if you want to
Put that gun on the ground. Drop it. Drop it.
you
Drop the gun. Sir, drop the gun now.
shoot at me,
Drop the gun now.
shoot at you.
Drop the gun now. I don't want to shoot you. Put that fucking gun down. Put it down now. Drop the fucking gun. You're less lethal. You're less lethal. Put it down. Put it down. Put it down. Really?
Hey,
Give him back. He's already had the gun here. He's threatening people.
hey.
Take him. Take him. Take him. Take him. Take him. Take him.
So before I get to the McCleary-Gallion analysis, I need to emphasize an extremely important point. One that I think is somewhat lost in the pre-sentence investigation, in the character letters, in the defense memorandum, and all of it. Point that cannot get lost at sentencing. Mr. Hansen's course of conduct was not just this 6-minute, 20-second clip that resulted in him getting shot. That's not what half of his convictions are for. The incident actually began at the fishbowl. Mr. Hansen had been drinking at home, and at noon, he must have ran out and came to the fishbowl seeking to purchase alcohol to take home, something you obviously can't do. This was Saturday, July 2nd, during the 4th of July weekend. He drank there. Accounts from, you noticed on the state's witness list, there were a lot of witnesses there who were not victims. Those were people at the bar, people in the buildings nearby where this video footage transpired nearby. Those people were all unanimous that Mr. Hansen was drunk and aggravating to people there. That's why the bar ejected him from there. There's no surveillance footage of where he was ejected, so I don't have video or audio I could play for you there, but I think this video and how he was speaking and what he was doing is instructive of how he was behaving at the bar. There, he pulled the gun there originally and pointed it at 3 patrons as he was ejected from the bar. As he was leaving, he shouted back expletives towards the bar while leaving the bar. a large number of the people who were at that bar were there celebrating the 4th of July weekend. This is a tourist county. Our population swells twofold during this weekend. It's one of the biggest business opportunities for places like the Fishbowl. There were many families there. The bar was packed. Many of those witnesses would have described the effect that it had on them, something similar, I think, to what you heard from the people who were on the properties adjacent to where the confrontation with the police occurred. They would have described children crying, people being rushed out the back and being affected by the trauma of someone doing this with a gun at that state, at this kind of location. This conduct terrified a lot of people in a way that affects them. It traumatized them. This conduct is why the police are there. This conduct is why why Deputy Peterson couldn't just let Mr. Hansen just walk home, because he had already done something that was serious felony behavior. The public was at active, grave risk. Nobody could predict what Mr. Hansen would do with a passing pedestrian, with a passing vehicle. Nobody could predict what he could do when he got home. If Mr. Hansen had immediately put down the gun and talked it out with Deputy Peterson and no confrontation like that occurred, we would still be here today having the same conversation about the serious crime that occurred at the Fishbowl, about the gravity of that offense, about the impact on those victims. As I read the statements in the PSI, the overwhelming focus was on the confrontation with the police, and I don't want those victims at the Fishbowl to be lost. So what about the other citizen witnesses on the list that weren't at the bar? Those were, you've heard a few of those, people in the buildings nearby who you heard how loud this interaction was. They could hear this happening. They came out to watch it, and they got to experience the fear of seeing something like this so close by, of not knowing, could a stray bullet hit me? We read about that in the papers all the time. People who died of just stray bullets. Something like that is a real possibility. Those people had to be there and listen to Mr. Hansen shout these expletives and curse words. You shoot me and I'll shoot you. These people would have testified about that fear if this went to trial. That's why Deputy Peterson, when he was pleading with Mr. Hansen at 5 minutes in the video, he explicitly asked, don't point the gun at anyone, because he was growing concerned of that too. Daryl Hansen was putting everybody in the area at risk, because you could see from that video, he was not in control of himself. Then finally, we have the last part of course of, this conduct, the last cluster of behavior, the confrontation with the police. This is the part that Mr. Hansen and the character references and the defense memorandum and even the PSI writer focused primarily on, because this is the part that had the most direct influence on Mr. Hansen's day-to-day living. As Mr. Hansen continued to be belligerent and not drop his firearm and shout back threats and curses, the police tried to take him into custody. They tried non-lethal. They tried that as soon as the backup arrived. For much of this video, Mr. Peterson, Deputy Peterson is there. He doesn't have sufficient backup to deal with this situation. He's there on his lonesome to deal with this. It isn't until partway in the video that backup arrives and he has help. The non-lethal failed. You saw the moment it failed. You saw the moment Mr. Hansen turned around and you saw him raising his firearm, just as he did moments before, waving it in the air above his head to make a point to the officer. Deputy Peterson did not risk himself or Deputy Schaefer when Hansen turned around and swung his gun. Police are not required, when faced with an irate, belligerent drunk with a gun, shouting curse words and expletives, to disarm themselves and to walk forward and just hope nothing bad happens. Police are not expected to put their lives in the hands of people like that. They're allowed to protect themselves just as others. Deputy Peterson only used lethal force after verbal commands failed. You heard him do that. You heard him saying please and sir and saying we can just talk this out. He did it after non-lethal failed. He did it after he and his backup were put at risk of death or great bodily harm, after residents nearby were put at risk of death and great bodily harm. And then what's not in the video is he provided life-saving in the field care until a better medical situation could be brought to Mr. Hansen. I wanted to emphasize that. So with that out of the way, we need to talk about Galleon. We always start with Galleon because Galleon says the court must do probation unless it finds one or more of the following. Confinement's necessary to protect the public from further criminal activity. Treatment in a confined setting is the most effectively provided, or that a term of probation would unduly depreciate the seriousness of the offense. Judge, probation would unduly depreciate the seriousness of this offense, full stop. The direct victims, of which there are 6, who had the firearm pointed at them, some of them gave statements in the pre-sentence investigation report. The effect was high. It was higher for some, lower for others. I think on the high end, you heard a lot from Deputy Peterson that he says this is why he can't be a deputy anymore. Other people at the bar talked about they can't see guns in the bar anymore. It causes them terror, it causes them anxiety and trauma that they can't get beyond, that they're afraid to continue to do the job they have been doing because of this incident. They bear permanent emotional scars that to them are just as real and impactful as the permanent physical scars that Mr. Hansen has. There's been a profound impact on a lot of people, even indirectly, as the people who witnessed this, the ones you heard from today who live nearby Mr. Hansen, the people you didn't hear from, the families who were at this bar, the bar itself, where I know people still don't go to what used to be called the Fishbowl because they know Mr. Hansen lives nearby. This could happen again, or at least that's how they feel, and their feelings are valid. Feeling of public safety is a goal in and of itself. Even before the confrontation with the police, Mr. Hansen had already committed serious felony behavior that is too grave for probation. That should be clear by the totality of the circumstances, the facts, the statements, and the PSI, the body cam the court saw today. Effect on the business on its busiest day of the year, and the fact that people are traumatized. As to the other 2 criteria, the Galleon ones, I do think confinement is necessary to protect the public from further criminal activity. You saw the body cam. Numerous witnesses saw Mr. Hansen in the bar before he even pulled the gun. The reason he was ejected from the bar is alcohol intoxication. He was getting intoxicated with alcohol before he even left his house. His wife seemingly lost track of him. And then he went to the bar and had this course of conduct. I'm sure dementia is an element here, but that's not the reason to ignore the obvious alcohol intoxication and admitted history of alcohol abuse. Where alcohol is a cause of crime, it continues to be an ever-present, insidious influence on people beyond the offense. Maintaining sobriety is hard. It's very hard. When it's one of the causes of the crime, when it's one of the causes of a person's criminal behavior, we have to think about that in crafting a sentence, the difficulty of combating that, and whether what their conduct was that was influenced by alcohol, does that conduct require treatment in confined setting? Is the extreme behavior that they committed while under the influence of alcohol such that the public can't chance them being out and dealing with that in the public? I think that for the confinement, I think it is necessary to protect the public. For the treatment in confined setting, that's a little less clear. When we talk about dementia, when we talk about chapters 51 and 55, dementia is called something that, under law in Wisconsin isn't treatable in the sense of 51, but that doesn't mean that it's not something where a person can learn life skills, you figure out how to manage, and that I think that could occur safely and effectively in an incarcerated setting. So that brings us finally to McCleary. So what should the sentence be and how should the court analyze the criteria for sentencing? McCleary is gravity offense, need to protect the public, character of the offender. So I need to start with something here that touches upon the gravity offense and the character of the offender. And it's kind of scary to me as I read through all these documents. It's a shadow that looms over the whole sentencing, and it needs to be analyzed correctly by the court because a lot of people gave statements that I do not think are the correct way to characterize it. What I mean is that Mr. Hansen, as a result of his behavior on July 2nd, 2022, was shot and suffered severe injuries that will change his life forever. They already have, for the worse, significantly. I believe because of that, because the immediate effect on Mr. Hansen was known to him and his family and his supports and his pastor, that has colored their views about the incident. To them, the tragedy is the health consequences Mr. Hansen has, because it's been so hard for him, it's been so hard for his wife, it's been so impactful to the supports he has that have seen it. And as a result, they view this tragedy as part of his punishment. The punishment is worse than any jail or probation or prison that the court could order. So the court should not order any imprisonment, is the logic that I see in much of this. That's the distinct impression, at least I get from reading this in the defense memorandum. I do not think that's the appropriate way to analyze that. I think it's actually unconscionable to do it, and perhaps unconstitutional for two reasons. First, it characterizes Mr. Hansen being shot as part of his punishment for his behavior. That the physical violence of being shot and the toll on his body and the consequences of it are a form of punishment. It's punishment enough. The court should discard this kind of characterization without further thought. Corporal punishment, just as a preliminary matter, hasn't existed in the United States since the 50s. One of the main reasons it doesn't is because it's a job nobody wants to do. Nobody wants to administer that kind of punishment. The reason why is it takes a toll on the person administering it. You heard from Deputy Peterson today. He did not want to shoot Mr. Hansen. No police officer wants to use their firearm, ever. They pray every day that they never have to use their gun on that shift and never for the rest of their lives. Nobody wants the trauma of having to do that to another person. Doesn't matter who you are. And when a person behaves like Mr. Hansen and hoists this decision on someone, or cases where someone, you know, tries to commit death by cop, provoking the police into doing something to kill you, they're forcing something horrific on the police officer, something traumatic, something they carry with them for the rest of their lives. The same sort of a emotional scar that these witnesses, these people at the bar, the same kind of injury they have. Viewing that, the fact that Deputy Peterson had to shoot Mr. Hansen is somehow part of his punishment, making things even, should not be done. And that leads into the second reason why that kind of analysis is reprehensible. It offers sort of a flip of victim and offender. From the PSI, Mr. Hansen gave a few statements, and Mr. Hansen clearly believes he's at least partially a victim. His family and supports and some of the references seem supportive of that notion as well. He shouldn't have been shot. The police officer should have just talked to him. The police officer should have been nicer and had a better tone. We've seen the body cam footage, Judge. Mr. Hansen is not a victim. The officer tried numerous approaches. He tried talking it out. He tried everything he could do that would not have a high risk of getting himself killed. He tried non-lethal. He tried everything. Mr. Hansen's not a victim because after day drinking at home, he ran out to get more alcohol at a bar, which you obviously can't do. He was kicked out for being a belligerent drunk at the bar's busiest day of the year, and he pointed a gun at a bunch of people in the bar. He hurled curses and expletives while at the bar, traumatizing the people there. causing them to run for doors and panic to shelter because they don't know what he's going to do. When the police arrive, he visibly has the gun out. He's visibly drunk. He's staggering back and forth the whole way in that body cam footage. He's swinging the gun around and raising it. He's yelling, "Fuck you," to Deputy Peterson constantly. He's warned so many times by the police. The officer begs Mr. Hansen to stop. I don't know how else to characterize that, and he didn't. Begs him not to raise the gun, begs him not to point it at anyone, begs him not to put him in the situation where he has to shoot Mr. Hansen. The victim is not Daryl Hansen. Any notion of that is shocking and absurd. The reason I went over those 2 points about the shooting is because they're deeply tied to the gravity of the offense and the character of the offender. If an offender doesn't think they did anything wrong, or what they think wasn't as bad as what people are saying, if they think they're partially a victim of the police or the court or the process, then it tells us something about their remorse, about how their moral compass is functioning, about their inner thoughts and conscience about what happened, about their ability for meaningful introspection, about whether they actually have the guilt necessary to change their behavior short of a significant sentence from the court, about the attitudes of the family and friends of Mr. Hansen. Are those people supporting him no matter what? Are they reinforcing this really just failure of morality and conscience and personal responsibility? Or are they saying, hey, Daryl, what were you doing on July 2nd? Why did you go there? Why did you bring a gun? Why'd you point it at people? It's hard to get an impression from the PSI that kind of conversation is happening. And that's concerning. The lack of any mention really at all about thoughts and feelings about the impact of the families and the children and all the people at the bar, at the people who witnessed and heard the confrontation walking back to Mr. Hansen's place, about hearing gunshots and knowing it's related to a police confrontation because you could hear the shouting. Because those are the things, if a person's feeling guilt and remorse, they're thinking about constantly. Thinking about, I can't believe I did that. That is the remorse. And in the absence of remorse, there's only blame for others. Judge, I think this is a case where the sentence needs to be, where the sentence is driven by the gravity of the offense. Really of all the offenses that this course of conduct entailed, all the people it affected. The world needs to know, the community needs to know, you can't get drunk, pointing guns at people that you're disagreeable with, and then shout and threaten your way out of it and just walk home. You can't be a thug. Punishment is needed, retribution is necessary. This offender, from a personal morality perspective, is not where he needs to be. The sentence must fill the gap where he will be a threat to the public the next time his wife isn't watching him and he wants a drink. I recommend following the PSI. Page 18 of the PSI, Hansen says he doesn't think he was any more in the wrong than the cop was. I wish that I saw more remorse and guilt from Mr. Hansen, or indication from his supports of guilt from him, or that they've put him the hard question about his behavior. If they don't, no one will. Page 18 again, Hansen doesn't think this is near as serious as they do. I don't know who they means. What is going to serve as the signpost to Mr. Hansen to not do this again? His conscience? His remorse? His physical disability or his dementia is going to somehow prevent it? I don't think so, Judge. I think it's just this sentence. This is the final stopper. Defendant argues his physical injuries from being shot are part of his punishment, and it's not. I read the PSI, I don't even see that from Mr. Hansen himself. I see that Mr. Hansen doesn't characterize it that way. He characterized it more as part of his personal victimization by the police. For that reason, I recommend doing 7 years initial confinement, 3 years extended supervision, all counts concurrent to each other. That's a 10-year prison sentence. That's towards the high end of the PSI. It's just a little bit lower. It's the low end of what Mr. Hansen could get if the court ran each count consecutive or ran the different clusters of behavior consecutive, the bar and the police confrontation. This is the sentence that I think fully realizes and appreciates the gravity of the offense. It's a sentence that will protect the public. This is the sentence that appreciates the character of the offender. He's a 72-year-old man with no criminal history who did a single act driven by alcohol and dementia. He's a man who thinks he's the victim in this case, a case with likely dozens of people who were actually impacted by his actions. This is the final chance for us to convey to Mr. Hansen that what he did was wrong. I appreciate he's entered a guilty plea. He's taken legal responsibility. He's taken steps towards it. I think he feels some remorse and he feels bad about some aspects of his actions. But as long as he continues to characterize and think of himself as the victim of the police, that there was something they could have done, something that they should have done, that they must have done differently, that would have caused him to not be injured. And because of that failing by them, which isn't a failing at all, that he's a victim, should be rejected. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt, did you read the medical notes that have been filed by defense as well with the sentencing memorandum?
Yes.
And did you note, I thought that it was my understanding that the dementia didn't play a role until after the shooting?
So he didn't get diagnosed for dementia until after the shooting. They won't backdate a diagnosis prior to it. I think his wife would say that he had some indications, some behaviors prior to it. We can't really say how affected he was by dementia before or after this. I'm really giving him just the benefit of the doubt, saying it could have been related.
Okay. And also, did you read in the notes, and I'm going to have, hopefully Mr. Kowitz will make a statement on this, that in the medical notes, I believe it's page 13 out of 33, but it's page 3 out of 8 for what was filed. It does have a note, paragraph 8, where it indicates that the defendant still has access to firearms in the home that are not locked. Did you see that notation?
I did, and I don't know what to make of a medical note about access to firearms. It's sort of a strange thing to be in medical notes.
Did it cause any alarm?
I mean, obviously that was part of my argument with this is really we're banking on Mr. Hansen's wife monitoring him, and this was a case where she lost track of him.
All right, thank you. Okay, Mr. Kowitz, argument and sentencing recommendation, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, Mr. Hansen is here before Your Honor because he took accountability for his actions on July 2nd, 2022. And regardless of what was illustrated in the PSI, years after this offense, I sat in my office in the conference room with Mr. Hansen and played that same video from start to finish. And that's the first time Mr. Hansen had ever seen that. Ms. Hansen was in my office and had to leave in tears. Mr. Hansen sat there in shock, sobbing. Because that is not the man that Mr. Hansen has been. His character, which took a lifetime to earn, every single day making rational, reasonable, conscious choices, with the ability to comprehend his choices, led him to the military, where he wrote a blank check with his life to this country during Vietnam. He honorably served the military. His entire life consisted of God-fearing, hardworking behavior, law-abiding behavior. The PSI outlines statements made by family members, which I think are very telling to this court, and certainly telling to me. He's described by his foster child as kind and warm and calm. He's described by his brother as always willing to help others. I disagree with the notion that character is defined by one act. I believe your reputation can be lost by one bad act, but character is earned over a lifetime. And risk assessment tools are objective tools that look at your lifetime for a reason and the whole life of the offender. And it's the best predictive tool we have to see if Mr. Hansen or any other defendant is a risk to the public. And I agree with the results of this assessment. The Compass assessment had a scaled score of 3, which is low. One of those being the current offense which he's charged for, which we all watched and Mr. Hansen admitted to. Your Honor, the state wants this to be simple. This is a simple case. Mr. Hansen must have been day drinking at his house. There's no evidence of that. He must have, though. He must have, because people don't behave that way unless they're drunk. And I beg the court to ignore that notion. Dementia causes agitation. Dementia causes somebody to not be able to walk or be steady on their feet. While alcohol likely played a role in this case, Mr. Hansen has never acted this way before. And by his own admission in the PSI, has consumed alcohol like many other veterans, if not every veteran I've ever met in my entire life. Struggle with chemical dependency issues.
That's not true.
In any event, we've never had this issue happen before. This is completely out of the norm for Mr. Hansen. Alcohol was not out of the norm. This type of behavior is. So what's new? The court posed the question, because this diagnosis happened officially after this offense, that doesn't play a role here. And I applaud Mr. Schmidt in recognizing that the evidence suggests
You
otherwise.
Twisted what the court said as to the dementia. I questioned when the diagnoses took place.
Okay. And I apologize, Your Honor. The PSI writer certainly did. So I did take offense to that. I believe, Your Honor, someone that's suffering from dementia, a side effect is a lack of empathy, a lack of control of impulse, memory loss, agitation. Mr. Hansen will spend the rest of his life with a progressive and fatal disease. It will get worse. That's what we know. And it will cause his death. That's what we know. We're here today to determine what he should be punished to. And while I agree with the state that being shot was not a punishment, we are here today for the appropriate punishment and sentence. But certainly, actions have consequences. And Mr. Hansen's actions on July 2nd, 2022 resulted in him being shot 3 times. That is a direct consequence to his behavior that day. And a constant reminder physically through the scars on his body of what he did to deserve that. That cannot be ignored. The state wants the court to just ignore all this. The state didn't even ignore that. Mr. Hansen wasn't taken in custody on a complaint warrant. He was issued a summons. That should be telling to this court that he's not a risk. And that this isn't just any injury. This was a life-threatening injury where he spent 3 months under emergency care in the hospital. Dozens and dozens of surgeries. On many occasions, doctors conveyed to his wife, Ms. Hansen, that he probably would not make it. He has spent time in a nursing home and assisted living shortly thereafter until medical professionals determined that there's nothing further we can do to assist, to rehabilitate you. You're going to have these physical ailments for the rest of your life. You're just going to have to learn to deal with them. And I outlined some of those in my memorandum for the court. And I'm not going to get into great detail, but simple daily activities like grooming and bathing and going to the toilet are very, very, very difficult tasks for Mr. Hansen that he needs assistance with. Assistance that he will not receive in the prison system. Folks with dementia, as the court can imagine, are vulnerable to victimization. In fact, Mr. Hansen's stepdaughter insightfully put in the PSI that he had felt vulnerable for years. So he didn't leave the house very much. He's certainly vulnerable now. Mr. Hansen has not consumed alcohol since the offense date. In fact, according to medical advice, he should not be consuming alcohol ever again in his life. The defense is going to ask that the court order that he not consume any alcohol and that he submit to random testing at the request of law enforcement or probation. And any other conditions that this court deems appropriate to protect the public. But Your Honor, I'm going to start with the 3 factors. Confinement is necessary to protect the public from further activity by the offender. I think the 70 years of law-abiding behavior from Mr. Hansen and the Compass risk assessment having a low score, and while out in the public, while this case has been pending since an offense date of 2022, it's been nearly 3 years, he hasn't committed a new offense. He won't. There is no risk to the public. And I do want to touch on one other thing. The court questioned the state in the VA report. It said that he had access to firearms. And I would note that I found that interesting as well, because I had a stern conversation with Mr. and Mrs. Hansen when I became their attorney about conditions of release and what's lawful and what's not. And I was assured that that wasn't the case. That assessment, and oftentimes assessments occur as a result of a defendant or a patient providing the information. So the doctor assumes that the information provided is true. Similarly, in a PSI, a lot of this is self-reporting from victims and self-reporting from the defendant. And in the PSI, Mr. Hansen indicated that he had an OWI just a few years ago. Your Honor, these are symptoms of dementia. Mr. Hansen does not have firearms at his house. Mr. Hansen did not get an OWI a few years ago. This is very sad and unfortunate. In addition, before Deputy Peterson spoke, the court may have seen that Mr. Hansen was talking to me. He asked me who that was. He had never seen him before in his life. This is a sad reality of an elderly man suffering from dementia. This is real. It goes to a defendant's culpability. When he doesn't have the ability to control the thoughts in his own head. There are many models for punishment. And certainly one of those is deterrence. We want to make sure that the individual knows that if you do this act, this is what the consequence will be. And I beg the court to not follow that in this case. Because likely Mr. Hansen will wake up if sentenced to prison and not know what he did to bring him there. Number two, the offender is in need of correctional treatment, which can most effectively be provided if he is confined. I think the answer to that is undoubtedly no. Undoubtedly no. Assisted living facilities have difficulty caring for individuals with dementia. The prison system is certainly not that place. And treatment has been working successfully, despite what Mr. Schmidt indicated. I think that chemical dependency treatment has come a long way. Treatment works. Rehab works. That's why we do it. That's why the court orders AODA assessments and follow the recommendations, which oftentimes is treatment, because treatment works. Certainly no treatment has a 100% success rate, but it's the only way. Trying is the only way to succeed. And Mr. Hansen has been successful and has not consumed a drop of alcohol since July 2nd of 2022. This is a man who admittedly has been consuming alcohol for over 60 years. We are creatures of habit. To break a habit is difficult, and he has managed to do that. Not only because it's a condition of his release, but it's necessary for his survival. That's why some of the letters were given by pastors and folks discussing AA. His wife, Jill Hansen, has been his caregiver long before the official diagnosis of dementia. One of the things that she's done since this offense is make sure that on top of all the medical appointments and going to church, she makes sure that he goes to AA every week. And he participates in that. And it's worked. So the answer to factor 2 would be no. Defense would argue number 3 is the strongest argument that the state has, likely the only argument the state has for confinement. And this offense is extremely serious. Every single defendant who pleads guilty to this offense looks at that. This is a serious offense. There's no doubt about it. That situation that we watched was extremely serious. But I would argue this is slightly less onerous. Because the hypotheticals that have been posed, what if he shot here? What if he shot there? What if he shot me? Actually happens in some cases with this very charge. And it did not happen in this case. And there's nobody more thankful than that than Mr. Hansen. The mental and emotional effects that this has had on the victims, undoubtedly true. But things would have been a lot different had Mr. Hansen pulled the trigger at any point in time at any one of the several victims. And the fact is that he didn't. And that cannot be ignored. It cannot. I'm not in any way trying to minimize Mr. Hansen's behavior. We did not go to trial for a reason. Mr. Hansen pled guilty and cooperated for a reason. Because he understood that what he did was wrong, at least the day that I showed him in my conference room that body cam video. Again, Your Honor, I believe the state wants the court to look at this as something simple. This is extremely challenging with all the dynamics at play. Your Honor, my argument today is that had Mr. Hansen not suffered from dementia, we would not be here today. That's nobody's fault. That certainly had an impact that we cannot ignore. So what do we do now? I'm asking the court to sentence Mr. Hansen to home confinement for any period that the court deems appropriate. Because that is the life he has been living since this case has been pending and shortly before. And that's what his life will look like until he dies. I believe the court can impose conditions that are not only appropriate, but can be put in place to protect the public. I think the taxpayers would save quite a bit of money for the medical needs that Mr. Hansen would have while in prison. And I'm asking the court to show compassion in this situation versus callousness. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hansen, I'm now going to give you an opportunity. This is your chance and your one and only opportunity to let me know anything that you wish for me to know about yourself, about this incident, about any remorse that you have. This is your opportunity to provide any clarification as to anything that's been stated, either by the state or by your attorney, or in either of these documents filed. You don't have to, but it is your one and only opportunity. Do you wish to make a statement here today?
Okay.
You can say whatever you want.
Your Honor, I did not intend to do any of that stuff that day.
I do my drinking at home. The wife wasn't up at the time. I walked up to the bar to get some more alcohol. They don't sell it. They don't sell it off sale. So I had a couple of drinks. And I didn't intend to hurt nobody that day. But the last 25 years in Wyoming, the state of Wyoming, everybody carries guns there. Everybody drinks there. One of my best friends was a state patrolman. Him and I went out drinking and shooting guns buku times, many, all the time, 25 years worth. And he's not the only one. I never ever once had anybody ever tell me, Daryl, you shouldn't be drinking and shooting guns. We always thought that was the most fun a guy could ever have in his life. And the people that I were doing that with did that. I didn't really see in that video where I was really waving a gun around a whole lot of anybody for somebody that was totally deranged or whatever. But everybody keeps saying I got shot 3 times. I got shot 4 times. I got 5 bullet holes in me. 2 in the hip, 1 in the hip and 1 in the leg. Went all the way through. 1 in the gut. 1 through my arm right here. And here's where my arm was when the cop said that I was raising my gun to shoot him. The cop was standing over here. So I'm very careful guns, that whether I'm drunk, sober, or whatnot. And I doubt very much if any of these cops back here haven't drank and went out shooting guns too. I doubt that very much. It's just, I think it's just a guy thing. It's what you do. That's the way I grew up. But again, I didn't plan on hurting nobody. I've never planned on hurting anybody. I carry a gun for protection. I don't carry a gun to go out and threaten people. I don't carry a gun to bully people. Never done that in my life. Never. Drunk or sober. But no, I've got no interest in drinking alcohol ever again. I just totally disgusts me now. It put me in a place that day where I absolutely never wanted to be. I guess that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Hansen. Mr. Hansen, you have told the court that you had no intent to do any of that day or to cause any harm. Do you specifically recall that?
Yeah.
Not having the intent to cause harm?
No, I did not have no intent to cause harm.
And you showed the court when you lifted up your arm and you showed me your injury on your arm where you were shot. And you
Well, see, the
lifted-
bullet that went through my arm also, Your Honor, went through my rib cage right here.
All right, okay. So that's how
That's-
you were shot more than the number of bullets.
No. This is one bullet. One bullet went in here and then it went into my rib cage.
And for the record, you're holding up your right hand. and Your
Correct.
right hand is up to your rib cage.
Right here. And I mean, any way you could do it, I mean, you know, it had to have been close. I mean, because it's right there. I mean, the ribs are all bulged out. There's a big, I didn't know it until I saw the video that that was a gunshot wound. I thought, because I had 5 bags hanging out of me at one time. And I thought that was one of them. And it was
5 bags?
5 bags.
What does bags mean?
It was carrying all the infection out of my system after being shot
Oh, all right, in the hospital.
in the hospital.
Okay,
But no, there's one distinct bullet. One went through my leg, went in one side and came out the other. One went in my hip, that's still down on my leg. One went in my gut, that's still in my body somewhere. This one here, I think, is the one that they took out of my back. It was about 3 centimeters from my spine.
and you're pointing to your right arm.
Right.
And when you were showing the court your injury, your bullet wound on your right arm, you did lift up your shirt so I can see that, and you were holding it up to your rib cage.
Right there.
And now you're lifting up your shirt to show me the bullet wound in your rib
And
cage.
then there's another one here.
You indicated to the court that you had recalled that your arm was in that position.
Yeah, I would say it would. If a bullet would have hit you in the arm and it was out here somewhere, that wouldn't have went into your body, you know.
Well, do you recall that?
No, I don't recall any of it.
Okay.
There's things I think I remember, but it's stuff that's probably I read in the report somewhere.
And you did also say that you were drinking that day and your wife was still sleeping and you wanted more alcohol. So that's when you went to the fishbowl bar. Do you remember that?
No. I don't know why I don't remember anything that day.
Well, it was a very traumatic day. Is there anything else that you would like me to know, Mr. Hanson?
Well, I love my country and I love my God. And through that, I will manage through this. This time too will pass.
Thank you. As Mr. Cowitz did say in his argument to the court, this is not a simple case. This is an extremely challenging and complex matter in a complex case. It's not a simple case where the court can look and see an individual and the actions that occurred that day and what happened and simply hear arguments and sentence based upon that. This is a case that has multiple facets. Both attorneys have focused on and identified to the court what the court must look at in sentencing. The court must consider the McCleary and the Gallion factors. I must first consider the nature and the gravity of the offense. How serious is this case? How serious is this incident? I have to look at Mr. Hanson's character, his prior criminal record, if any, his service to the country, to our country, his education, his history, all of those things. I also have to look at the needing to protect the public factor. I also have other things to focus on, such as the effect on the victims. And here, it's not as simple to identify the victims in this case. This isn't a burglary. We don't have a defendant that's breaking into a person's home or cabin. And I can't easily, or the public can't easily identify all of the victims in this matter. I have to look at the rehabilitative needs of the defendant. If there's any undesirable behavior patterns, his culpability, his age, his education. I have to look at deterrence. And this was brought up by Mr. Schmidt in his argument, deterrence. It is a factor. Not only specific deterrence to deter Mr. Hansen from engaging in this type of behavior, again, but general deterrence to deter the public as a whole, other people from engaging in this type of action and behavior. I have considered and heard the arguments of both counsel. I have heard victim impact statements. I have heard the statement of the defendant. I have read and reviewed the PSI multiple times. I have read the sentencing arguments. I have read the VA medical records. I have read all of the character letters that have been filed on Mr. Hansen's behalf. In this case, everybody here agrees this is a very serious matter. Mr. Hansen has pled guilty to 6 first-degree recklessly endangering safety, Class F felonies. Maximum possible penalty for each of those charges, each of them 12.5 years of incarceration, up to a $25,000 fine. Maximum possible penalty for each of those individual 6. Could be concurrent sentence, it could be consecutive sentence. However, he pled guilty to 6 very serious charges. Mr. Hansen did accept and be accountable for those 6 criminal counts and his actions as it relates to this criminal matter. When we're looking at this case, and the court has looked at all of the charges that Mr. Hansen was originally charged with, and if this matter were to have went to trial, and if Mr. Hansen were to have been found guilty on all of those charges, Mr. Hansen faces or would have faced a maximum of up to 87 years of incarceration. 87 years. That's essentially a life sentence. Even still, with the 6 counts that he pled guilty to, there's a maximum possible penalty of up to 72 years of incarceration. Again, that includes the initial confinement portions as well as the extended supervision portions. Mr. Hansen was given a deal in reaching this agreement in this plea, but it wasn't I would say it wasn't the best deal that a defendant has reached in the past. He still faces a significant amount of incarceration over his head. The primary dispute here today is whether or not this is a prison sentence, and if so, how long, and whether it should be imposed immediately or stayed and placing Mr. Hansen on probation with or without any conditional jail, or whether this is a probationary sentence with a withheld sentence and having all of that maximum incarceration time hanging over Mr. Hansen's head. The court has the ability to look at not only the charges that Mr. Hansen pled guilty to, but also those dismissed and read-in crimes, which are also very serious. And as Mr. Schmidt pointed out in his arguments, that we can't overlook all of the individuals that have been affected by this course of conduct. All of the individuals. The course of conduct originated at the Fishbowl Bar that was packed with families and people on a holiday weekend. The court must look at that as well. So the court has to determine whether or not this is a case that rises to a maximum possible penalty, and maybe it does, or whether it is something that is in between, or to look at other factors and simply place Mr. Hansen on probation. In sentencing, I first have to look at the seriousness of this offense. And I have to look at whether or not there's any mitigation or if there's aggravation in this matter. We have multiple victims, multiple different points of incidents and conduct that took place that day. Mr. Hansen was drinking alcohol at his home, ran out of alcohol at his home. He wanted more. He walked across the highway to Fishbowl Bar to get more alcohol. He was told he is not permitted to have off-sale alcohol. So he consumed some alcohol at the bar, and his behavior escalated, at which time staff thought that he was under the influence of alcohol and that he no longer should consume alcohol and should vacate the bar. This caused Mr. Hansen to become agitated. He took out his weapon, his firearm. He pointed his weapon at staff. He pointed his weapon at patrons. He pointed his weapon at families, at children, at people who were simply in that bar and restaurant to enjoy themselves and to have a good time. And if we read the facts of the case as they're stated in the criminal complaint, we had some patron heroes that day that risked their own lives to get Mr. Hansen out of the bar so as not to endanger the lives of the children, the women, the families, and the other men in that building. But Mr. Hansen's behavior didn't end there. It continued and it escalated further. And we hear that Deputy Mark Peterson received a call of an intoxicated person at a bar pointing a gun at people. And we watched, we all got to see the body cam footage from Deputy Peterson. The court had not seen that footage until today. I believe it was approximately 6 minutes long, watching Deputy Peterson exit his vehicle with his firearm in hand, going out of the vehicle. And at first, I would say a bit scared as we hear Deputy Peterson in the beginning say, put that gun down. Put that fucking gun down. I did not hear Deputy Peterson yell or scream or say swear words at Mr. Hansen much after that. But I did hear throughout the entire video, put it down, put that gun down. Please, please put that gun down. Please drop that gun. I don't want to shoot you. Please, I don't want to shoot you. I heard Mr. Hansen say, I will shoot you if you shoot me. Deputy Peterson, don't raise that gun. Please, please put the gun down. Please put the gun down so I can talk to you. Please, put the gun down. Put the gun down. Don't raise that gun. Please put that gun down. I will shoot you, and if you shoot me, says Mr. Hansen. Deputy Peterson, please put that gun down. And all the time that Deputy Peterson was saying, please put that gun down, put that gun down, drop that gun, I heard from Mr. Hansen, fuck you, no, fuck you. I took a tally of how many times both Deputy Peterson said, please put that gun down or put that gun down. And a response from Mr. Hansen, fuck you, fuck you. I stopped at 57. I stopped at 57. And it continued on and on. Please put that gun down so I can talk to you. I want to talk to you. Please, please. And then not only did we hear those statements made by Deputy Peterson and by Mr. Hansen, there were also statements made by Deputy Peterson, don't raise that gun. Don't raise that gun. And in response, Mr. Hansen said, I will shoot you if you shoot me. Deputy Peterson, I don't want to shoot you. I don't want to shoot you. Watching that video is very traumatic. I can see how it affected individuals who have seen that video. We have individuals from Mr. Hansen's family who have watched that video. And I believe the family members, when they say Mr. Hansen is a kind and gentle person, he's caring and he wants to do for others. And I fully do believe, I commend him for being a veteran. That is a high honor to protect our country, to protect our country. But that is the same thing that the officers do. Mr. Hansen may have given his life and put his life at risk to protect his country, but so do the officers. The officers protect and serve, putting their lives at risk every day. But it's not protect and serve and to die in the line of duty. No officer, I cannot believe that any officer wants to shoot an individual, no matter the situation. But sometimes they have to. Sometimes they have to save others for public safety. And in watching that video and in hearing the impact statement by Deputy Peterson, it is clear that an officer does not want to shoot an individual. And in hearing Deputy Peterson's statement, he has suffered trauma. Mr. Hansen has suffered trauma. Mr. Hansen has suffered injury. Mr. Hansen will suffer a lifetime of injury. Mr. Hansen's actions caused that, not Deputy Peterson's, not any individual in the fishbowl bar that day. Only Mr. Hansen. Mr. Hansen's actions and conduct that day affected more than just an officer. It affected a community. It affected a neighborhood. It affected patrons at a bar. It affected family. It affected children. And those are traumas that perhaps won't go away. Mistakes have consequences, some more than others. Mistakes also have punishment. In reading the PSI and seeing statements made or hearing statements made from family members or from Mr. Hansen, one individual stated the cop was trigger happy. He was trying to throw his power around. I did not see that at all. Not one bit. Not one bit did I see that at all. I saw an officer begging Mr. Hansen to put the gun down, begging to talk to Mr. Hansen and to talk it all out. And all Mr. Hansen had to do was drop that gun on that dirt road or simply throw it in front of him. But he did not. He continued to say, fuck you. I will shoot you if you shoot me. Fuck you. We also have individuals that have watched the video who have said the officer should have calmed him down instead of yelling and screaming at him. Again, I watched the video. The officer kept begging, please, please put the gun down. I heard some yelling of put that fucking gun down or put the gun down. I did not hear a lot. I heard a lot of please. I heard a lot of begging. Mr. Hansen has suffered extreme injuries. He was shot 3 times, but as he indicated, he has 5 bullet wounds, and he will suffer the rest of his life. And the fact that he may or may not have had dementia prior to or at the time of this incident, it may have been diagnosed after the fact, and it may have played a part in the actions or in this conduct, but that does not excuse the behavior. Dementia does not automatically excuse a defendant from criminal responsibility. It may impact competency or liability, but it does not excuse from criminal responsibility. And although Mr. Hansen may suffer from some form of dementia or some incidents of not recalling everything correctly, he may believe he received an OWI some time ago. He may believe other things. He may be confused if he has access to loaded weapons that are not locked. But when it comes down to it that day, Mr. Hansen knew what he was doing. The video is clear. He knew what he was doing. And as he states to the PSI author, the cops were just wrong. Essentially, that's what he's saying. The cops are just wrong. It's not as near as serious as they do. Or he also does not think I was any more wrong than a cop was. Mr. Hansen was the only one wrong that day. The only one wrong that day. I cannot fact check if Mr. Hansen, while living in Wyoming, carried a gun and drank heavily and shot while he was intoxicated and drinking, and he shot with officers there in Wyoming. I can't identify if that is a true fact or not, but he is indicating today that it is. And that he did not intend to cause harm to anyone that day. And there's much said by the defense with regards to the alcohol and alcohol playing a part as well. And I did correct Mr. Cowitz when during his argument, I try not to interrupt during arguments, but Mr. Cowitz said every veteran suffers from substance use, and that is not true. That is absolutely not true. I know plenty of veterans that do not suffer from substance abuse or substance use issues. That is not true. And the fact that Mr. Hansen today, from July 2nd, 2022, can be sober from that date and time until today is telling. If he wanted to be sober, he would have been sober. He could have been sober. He could have worked at being sober, but he did not until he had to. And the court can't look at the fact that he didn't shoot anyone that day. He shouldn't be praised for that. He's not punished enough because of his injuries. He's not a hero because he didn't shoot anybody that day. He's lucky he didn't shoot anybody that day. There were a lot of people at risk and a lot of people who may not get over that day ever. Although the PSI author does state that Mr. Hansen does not show remorse, I hear that he has remorse. I don't believe he wanted to harm or hurt anybody that day. I don't believe that that was his intention that day. He just refused to listen to the commands of the officer, who repeatedly asked him to put down the weapon. This is not simply a case of, are we looking at an officer as a victim versus Mr. Hansen as a victim? Mr. Hansen is not a victim. If he is a victim, Mr. Hansen is a victim of his own actions, his own conduct that day. And as I believe Deputy Peterson indicated, that he had to retire and he's suffering from health issues due to this incident. In the sentencing memorandum, defense would like the court not to look at that because there's no connecting the dots to Deputy Peterson's health issues and his retirement and this issue, this incident. Other than the fact that Deputy Peterson has stated that in court, I don't have any documentation that is correct. But I did hear words from Deputy Peterson, profound words of the impact of that day. And perhaps this is not the correct thing to say, but I believe officers can be victims too. They can be victims too. You're people. Just because you wear a uniform doesn't mean that you're immune to being a victim. Just because I wear a robe doesn't mean I'm immune to being a victim. Just because the attorneys are wearing suits doesn't mean they're immune to being a victim. Everyone is human and everyone can suffer at the hands of another and be a victim. So when I look at Mr. Hansen's character, he does not have a criminal history. This is the first criminal act that he engaged in through his life, or at least that he was convicted of. We have 6 serious felonies, F felonies, the doozy of a first conviction. And yes, he is a veteran and he did serve our country. And he should be commended for that. And the court should take that into account. And Mr. Hansen does have rehabilitative needs and rehabilitative prospects. He's a 72-year-old man, first criminal conviction. He's addressing his alcohol issues. He's tending to his medical conditions. He's addressing his medical condition of dementia as been identified by his VA doctor. And as it is correctly noted by both sides, the court must consider probation first. Unless confinement is necessary to protect the public from further criminal activity from Mr. Hansen, unless Mr. Hansen needs correctional treatment, he can only get treatment in a confined setting, or unless placing him on probation would unduly depreciate the seriousness of the offense. And if the court does order confinement, it should be ordered at a minimum amount consistent with protecting the public and looking at the gravity of the offense, along with the rehabilitative needs of the defendant. I am directed in sentencing to give no more confinement than is necessary to meet those general sentencing requirements and factors. The defense would like the court to have the presumption of zero confinement and looking at probation due to the character and other needs of Mr. Hansen. And the state is asking for an upfront prison sentence. The court has to look at the victims as well as the defendant and the families and the friends and all that relate to this process. And during this proceeding, we have heard a lot from Deputy Peterson, from the witnesses that saw the shooting today, from Mr. Peterson or from Mr. Hansen himself, and we saw the video from the body cam. And again, Deputy Peterson gave his statement and he walked out when the court was addressing something, and so I will address it again. Deputy Peterson asked the court to look at whether or not if this was one of my family members or one of my friends and was placed in that situation, and if one of them were to be shot or almost shot or have a gun pointed at them. This has been a highly emotional proceeding. The court cannot do that. This is not an emotional process for the court. This is a rational process. I cannot put myself in those shoes. I must rationally think about this process. There are multiple factors here that aggravate the activity and the conduct, that raise the seriousness. And there are a lot of people involved, a lot of victims involved. There was also statements made that are by the defense in the argument concerning the dementia and the fact that this is going to be, this is a lifetime disease that will affect Mr. Hansen and will ultimately lead to his death. Dementia can lead to death, doesn't directly cause death, could be a factor, could increase his vulnerability, but it won't cause his death necessarily. And yes, he will be vulnerable and more vulnerable in a prison setting. But if the court were to place him in a prison setting, it wouldn't be in general population. They do have specialized accommodations for inmates suffering from dementia or other mental health illnesses or disorders and other medical issues and disorders. So that's something that the court considers as well, not simply that Mr. Hansen has dementia. In prison, there are programs designed for this, and peers and caregivers to utilize trainings and systems to assist individuals with dementia. The court has considered all of these factors. So with regards to sentencing in this matter, the court finds that it would unduly depreciate the seriousness of the offense if I placed him on probation. The court will sentence Mr. Hansen to 8 years of initial confinement, 5 years of extended supervision to be served immediately. On extended supervision, he will have conditions such as absolute sobriety, no use or condition or no use of illegal substances or drugs without a prescription. Continue with his medical treatment. $518 for the first count, $250 for all remaining counts for fines and fees. If he fails to make payment for those fines and fees, a civil judgment will be entered against him. The court orders that all restitution, surcharges, and court costs and fines will be collected as a percentage determined by the DOC to be reasonable while in state prison and as a condition of extended supervision. He has 20 days to appeal. Should he fail to appeal within 20 days, he will lose that right. Again, it would unduly depreciate the very seriousness of this offense. And the court takes in account all of the actions that day from the first moment Mr. Hansen stepped into the Fishbowl Bar and Grill, that very moment, up until the time of the shooting. So all counts will be the same and will be concurrent to each other. The court is ordering DNA.
I think it does qualify. I would ask the court to condition eligibility for release upon completion of the earned release program to not occur until he's served.
He can only have 3 years remaining before he can even apply. So he has to
Oh.
serve 5 years first.
That's what I was gonna say, actually, so. Until he's served 5 years.
All right, he may be eligible for the substance abuse program at the date and time made available by DOC, as long as he fully completes the substance abuse program. That date and time, Mr. Hansen was a violent threat to many, and that cannot be overlooked. Mr. Schmidt, what is the court missing?
I would just ask the court as a condition of probation to have a condition, just given his circumstances of no firearms in his residence, even if they're locked.
Absolutely no firearms in his residence, even if it's in a locked box or gun safe. Mr. Cowitz, is the court missing anything?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then we are adjourned.